Good morning. Welcome to Nancy's Corner. It's October 1st, so that means it's Happy Halloween month. So what else would I talk about this month except mysteries? Now, if you like horror, scary stories, I'm not going to talk about any of those today, but I recommend Stephen King, Dean Koontz, authors like that will give you a really good scare. But if you want a really good mystery, I have some suggestions for you. The first one is The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. This is such a good book. I had to force myself to put it down to go to sleep, and I started reading when I got up the next morning and had to force myself to close it so I could come to work. That is true. This is about a married couple. He has a 16-year-old daughter, and she and the stepmother are okay with each other, but not really. He gets the doorbell rings, she opens the door, and there's this little girl delivering a message that says, "Keep her safe." And that's all it says. So she has no idea what's going on. She tries to call her husband, he won't answer. So she decides, well, maybe I better go pick up the girl from school. The girl gets in the car, she goes, "I found a duffel bag in my locker with close to $600,000 in it." And she tells her about the note, and she says, "We have no idea what's going on." Well, the father works for a tech company, and they are doing illegal things. They're selling shares in their products and selling the products before they're even finished, and there's problems with it. So the government is after them, and they arrest the owner of the company, and this husband and father just disappears, drops off the grid. Nobody can get in touch with him. So this Texas Ranger comes, they live in Oregon. I'm sorry, they live in California. He came from Oregon, now he's in California. This Texas Ranger comes along and starts asking questions. And he says, "You really have to be careful. Call a lawyer, get custody of the teenage stepdaughter." So she calls her old boyfriend, who is a lawyer, and tells him what's going on. He gets the custody papers for her, and she says, "Look into my husband." So he does, and he said he and the daughter, before they came to California, did not exist. Everything he told you about himself is a lie. And that's all I'm going to tell you, because it gets better, even better from there. So find out where he is, why he's hiding, and really great read. Okay, the next one is about Halloween. It's called Cripsuzette. It's by Maya Corrigan. It is part of a series, but it's a standalone. You don't have to read the rest of the series. The main character is Val Denniston. She has a cafe and a spa, plus she also does catering. So she's catering this Halloween party at a bookstore where you have to come dressed up as your favorite book character. There's a college girl that's living with her and her grandfather, and she wins the contest. Well, as she's walking home, she gets hit by a car and is killed. Well, as they look into it, she realizes that this was not an accident. And she comes to this realization while she's in a haunted house. And while it's not really that scary, and you know it's not real, but it's a reminder of why I don't go into haunted houses. So that's a cute part of the book. And of course, she finds out who killed the girl before the police do. So that's a good Halloween one. This one is called Silence in the Library. It's written by Catherine Shellman. This is a historical mystery. The main character, her father comes to visit her, and they really don't get along at all. He criticizes everything she does. And he has a friend who has recently remarried a younger woman, not too much younger, but her father disapproves. So he says, "I am not going to make the congratulation call. You have to go do it." So she does, and she finds a very dysfunctional family when she gets there. And she kind of feels sorry for the new wife because nobody really likes her, and she seems to be a nice person. So they make plans to go horseback riding the next day. When she gets there to go horseback riding, the house is in a turmoil because the owner of the house, the master, the new husband, is dead. And this girl loves to poke around. She's a member of a mystery book club and takes her book club very seriously. So she's poking around, and they think it's an accident. He fell and hit his head on the desk. Until for some unknown reason, she looks up into the fireplace and finds the fireplace poker wrapped in some towels, shoved up in the fireplace. So you know it's not an accident. So is it the new wife? Is it his son that doesn't like the new wife? Is it the nephew with a gambling problem that the older man, he says he's not going to cut him off, but you never really know? Is it the special needs son that is hidden in the house? You have to read the book to find out who did it. Really good. Okay, this one is Have You Seen Me? And it's by Kate White. The main character of this book goes to work one morning. She is soaking wet. She's lost her purse, so she doesn't have her key card to get in. And she finds somebody coming out of the building. They let her in, and she said, well, I'm just going to sit in the conference room and wait till somebody comes that will open the office. The boss comes in, and he sees her, and he goes, oh, hey, what are you doing here? And she kind of jokes, says, I work here? And he goes, no, not for about 5 years now. So she does not know what she's doing there. He takes her into his office and gives her a cup of coffee. She passes out. They call the ambulance and they take her to the hospital. While she's at the hospital, they contact her husband, which at first she doesn't even realize she has a husband. And then slowly her memory starts coming back. They don't know why she lost her memory, but she says, oh, well, I remember up until last night what we had for dinner. We watched something on TV, and then we went to bed. It was no problem. And then from the next morning, everything's blank. Well, when her husband gets to the hospital, he checks her out, says, okay, she'll see her psychiatrist and everything will be fine. So she tells him, well, I just don't know what's going on because I remember last night. He goes, no, you don't. That was 2 days ago. You've been gone for 2 days. So she doesn't know why. She doesn't know where she's been. She knows she's been in the same clothes for 2 days. She got up, got dressed, left the house, and the rest is a blank. So we'll have to see what happens. And I'm hoping I'm leaving a little mystery on these, so you'll want to check them out. The next one is Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty. This is a married couple. They're married 50 years. They're retired tennis pros. They have 4 grown children. And it starts off where the 4 grown children are in a cafe talking to each other. And they are trying to figure out where Mama is because she disappeared. And they're saying, oh, but Mama and Daddy had such a great marriage, he would never do anything to her. And one of my favorite lines is one of the brothers said, did we live in the same house? So 2 of the kids think Daddy had something to do with it. 2 of them are insisting they don't. So she's gone a week, as far as I've gotten in the book. I haven't finished it yet. And they won't call the police because they don't want to get Daddy in trouble just in case he had something to do with it. Also, a few months before, there's a knock on the door, and it's this young girl, battered, in tattered clothes. She goes, my boyfriend beat me up. This looked like a nice house. This was all the money I had for a cab. It left me out on this block. Your lights were lit. So here I am. Can you help me? So they take her in. They feed her. They give her a place to sleep. They give her clothes. She's also missing. What happened to Mama? Her bike was found on the side of the road by some guy driving along in a car, and he picks it up, puts it in his trunk, and then he gets in a head-on accident and is killed. So we don't know what his connection is, but we don't know where Mama is, and we don't know where the girl that showed up on their doorstep is. Very good. Okay, another one. This is another Halloween one. Haunted Hibiscus by Laura Childs. The main character is Theodosia Browning. She owns a tea shop. And it's another haunted house. She is catering for the haunted house with one of her employees. And it's to showcase this friend of theirs, niece, who wrote a book on ghost in, I believe they're in Charleston, South Carolina. And she wrote a book about the ghost, and she's there for a book signing in this haunted house. It's the week before Halloween. Everything's going great. She's so excited. They go through the house and they go back to say, she says, well, let me get one more book signed. And she's not there. So, well, she took a break. So they go outside and everybody's pointing to the roof of the house going, what is that? It looks so real. They look up and it's the girl hanging out of a window. We don't know what happened to her, and I'm not going to tell you. Okay, one more adult book. This is Joanne Fluke, Red Velvet Cupcake Murder. It's a Hannah Swenson mystery. Hers are always good. This is an audio book, but it's very quick to listen to. They saved all the recipes for the end of the tape, so you don't have to skip over it if you don't want to hear the recipes. Hannah Swenson is very busy in this book. She has to find out what really happened in a suspicious death in the previous book. There is an attempted murder, and there is an actual murder to which Hannah is the prime suspect. Because one of the things they found in her stomach contents was her red velvet cupcake murder, red velvet cupcakes. So we have to see, of course, Hannah didn't do it, and she's going to find out who did. This is one in kind of the middle of the series. In my opinion, the earlier books are better. This one's very good. They eat a lot of cookies, drink a lot of coffee, but the mystery is the plot is the main focus of the book instead of the cookies and the coffee, which to me is the later ones. So, really good mystery. Now, for my favorites, the kids' books. Going through our collection and getting some new books in, I found some really great mysteries for younger children. I'd say 7 to 10. The first one is The Great Cake Mystery by Alexander McCall Smith. And you may know him from the Precious Ramazzi series. This is Precious when she's a child. This is her very first mystery. She's at school. Things are missing out of lunch boxes. Just tiny things. But the biggest thing is a piece of cake. And everybody is blaming this little chubby guy because he likes to eat. And he's all upset because he said he did not take the piece of cake, and nobody believes him. And she has to find out who took the piece of cake, which she does. There are more in this series, but this is the very first. Great introduction to mysteries, and so are the next two. This is The Treasure Troop, Mr. Summerling's Secret Code by Dory Hillstead Butler. These are 3 children who go to school together. They're not really friends, but that's okay. They know each other. The little girl in the middle, her next door neighbor dies, and she and the other 2 children are contacted by his lawyer because he left something for them. And he leaves a letter with clues to a hidden treasure. They have to figure out word puzzles. They have to figure out numerical puzzles. They have to figure out Morse code. Really intelligent stories. They have to figure out Scrabble puzzles. All kinds of good stuff. I'm not going to tell you what the treasure was. Part one, there's 2 treasures. One I'm not going to tell you. The other treasure is that they all become really good friends. There are 4 books in the series. We have the first 3. Number 4 comes out in the middle of October, which we will have. You really need to read all of them because they're all connected. But they kept my interest. I read the first 2. I'm getting ready to start the 3rd one. A lot of fun figuring out the puzzles and everything the adventures these children get into. Also for that same, say, 7 to 10 age group. The 3rd one from that age group is The Secret Spy Society, The Case of the Missing Cheetah by Veronica Mang. This is also a series. This is the only one we have so far. They're on my list to get the rest of them. These 3 little girls love mysteries. It's a dark and stormy night, and they see this suspicious looking lady walking down the street. So they decide to follow her. They find out she's their teacher, and she leads them to a house, and she goes, oh, no, don't worry, I just have some friends here, that's fine. Well, they follow her they go home, but they follow her again. And they find out that in this house, it's the secret society of real life women spies. Now, they didn't all live at the same time, but in this book they do. And in the back, they tell you all about the lady spies and what they did during the war and whenever they needed to be spies. So it gives you a little historical background because these are real women. And at the end of this one, they make friends with these women, and one of them says, well, you know, oh, and they find her missing cheetah. Somebody kidnapped her that takes wild animals for trophies. So they are able to get the cheetah back. And because of that, she goes, well, you know, I think we just might have some work for you. And that leads you into the rest of the stories. Really great books, easy to read, pictures for kids who are starting with chapter books who would really love to read a mystery. The next one, now I have my easy readers. This is not a Halloween book, but because it's a fall book, and it's called A Tale of Two Beasts by Fiona Robertson. This little girl is walking through the woods and sees this hanging upside down on the tree. We really think it's a squirrel. She thinks it's a beast. I didn't know squirrels could hang upside down, but this one does. So she goes, oh, poor thing, he looks so uncomfortable. So she takes him home, wraps him up in her scarf, gives him a bath, feeds him food he doesn't eat, gives him a stuffed toy to play with. After a while, when she goes to sleep, he goes, I can't take this anymore. And he runs away. That's the first half of the book. It's her idea of the story. The second half of the book is the beast idea of the story, where he says, this beast came and yanked me out of my tree and took me home and gave me a bubble bath. So at the end, she goes to look for him in the woods. And she realizes, well, maybe he's supposed to be here. And they end up being good friends and playing in the woods. Very cute. The last two I have are kind of old. They're from the 1980s, but they never go out of style. This is my very favorite book, Halloween book of all time, The Little Old Lady Who Was Not Afraid of Anything by Linda Williams. The little old lady who is not afraid of anything goes for a walk in the woods to gather berries and twigs and things like that. It's getting dark, and she's walking home, and she comes across all of these parts. 2 shoes that go clomp clomp, 1 pair of pants that go wiggle wiggle, 1 shirt goes shake shake, 2 gloves go clap clap, 1 hat go nod nod, and 1 scary pumpkin head go boo. But of course she's not afraid of anything. But every time she sees one, she walks a little bit faster. Well, they follow her home and knock on the door. And she opens the door because she's not afraid of anything. And it's what she turns them into. And it ends very, very happy. The next one, I remember in the 80s reading this when I was a school librarian. It was The Biggest Pumpkin Ever by Stephen Kroll. This little mouse is growing a pumpkin in his garden, and he says he wants this to be the biggest pumpkin at the fair. So he feeds it, and he fertilizes it, and he waters it, and he takes the best care of it. He covers it with blankets when it gets cold at night, and it's growing by leaps and bounds. What he doesn't realize is that there's another little mouse that has discovered this same pumpkin, and he wants to make a jack-o'-lantern out of it. So he is feeding it and watering it and fertilizing it and covering it with blankets so it won't get cold, and they finally discover each other, and the pumpkin is just enormous. So he said, well, I want to win a prize with this. And the other said, well, I want to make it into a jack-o'-lantern. And he said, well, you can make it into a jack-o'-lantern if I win the prize. So he does. And all the little mice, it's really too big to fit into the tent at the county fair. So they have to judge it outside. And all the little mice help bring it to the fair and makes a great big beautiful jack-o'-lantern after he wins first prize. So those are my mysteries and my Halloween books. I read this shirt today because it says reading is essential. Reading is essential, and I hope you find something that I have talked about that you would like to come in and check out. If not, find a book you love to read and enjoy yourself. Have a good month. See you next time. Bye.